It's time to get on the ice. Music City Gold is on the air with Kyle Hancock, Daniel Mangrum, and Matt Bain. We are Smashville's best fan-driven podcast, featuring news around the league, the Predators, and the occasional hot take or two. Part of the Penalty Box Radio Network, you're listening to Music City Gold.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Music City Gold on the Penalty Box Radio Network. I'm your host, Kyle. With me, as always, are my co-hosts, Daniel and Matt.
Hello.
Hey, guys.
I don't know why I thought you were stretching it out. I thought you were going to say, like, hey, boys.
We gotta keep it the same.
Well, guys, this is our 5th season.
This is crazy. 5 seasons deep.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. We've had a fun time doing it. We really didn't do it for necessarily the long term, but it's crazy that we look back and we're at 5 years now. But we're having fun doing it, and I'm so glad to be back at it. Boys, it's been a long off season. I've been so excited to look forward to hockey again.
It's just been 3 months.
I know, but it feels like an eternity, dude.
Yeah, and like this year, it feels just like everything is officially back. You know what I mean? Like packed houses. You know, the divisions are realigned back to normal. You know, you're really starting to see it all come back together. And then on top of it, too, like, there's just so many good storylines this year. There's been so many moves. There's been so many transactions. It's like, I don't even know what to say. So.
But do you know what the best storyline of all is?
No.
The Lightning are setting themselves up for a 3-peat cup run because Nikita Kucherov is back on long-term injured reserve. And we know what happened last time.
Yeah.
Hey, they said unlikely to be beyond 56 games.
Yeah.
That was in quotes from John Cooper. But that said,
stop me if you've heard it before.
Yeah, I mean, like this is real.
Everybody,
so.
As soon as the news came out, we were like, yeah, we see where this is headed.
He's going to be back for the playoffs first. Yeah, I mean, you know what would be really funny is that they do that and then trade for Eichel.
I don't think I would love to see it.
Could you imagine that? That would be hilarious.
Poor Jack Eichel. That's another story, too, that is just, like, going nowhere.
That's, honestly, it's a huge black mark on the league right now because apparently he wants, like, I guess, a fusion surgery, and the team...
on the league, it's on Buffalo.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the team won't approve it. They'll only approve, like, a disc replacement or something. So, anyway, he wants some type of experimental surgery, which is better, but it's kind of experimental, and the team won't root for it. And he's having trouble leaving Buffalo. They can't get the other teams can't see the doctor's reports on him, and Buffalo's already said they're not going to retain any salary in a potential trade, so they're making it incredibly hard for Jack. And Jack Eichel probably won't even play this year. So it's a huge black mark to the point where fans and players and people in the industry are saying, you know, this might be a point where the league needs to step in. And apparently this is all covered in like the CBA, and it's under contract and laws and such, but this is a law of unintended consequences. This is just a bad look, man.
Well, I mean, you're also talking about a very young star talent that's basically just sitting there wasting away, and then on top of it too, like that spinal fusion thing. Didn't Tiger Woods have 1 or 2 of those? Like,
yeah, I think
mean,
so.
It's not really like very experimental, so I really don't understand why the team won't cover it. I don't know. There's just been so many storylines that have popped up, but yeah, I mean Buffalo. I really don't know what they're doing in the front office right now, but it's been kind of like a dumpster fire, even though they've started off perfect this year, which is hilarious to me. They're 3-0. So who would have thought? Don't think that's going to average out throughout the whole season,
no.
But I'm just saying.
It's a happy start, though.
Yeah, good start for them.
And it also looks like that Shea Weber is not going to be playing this year, and he's going on long-term injured reserve as well, which is good for the Preds because if he retires, the Preds are facing a recapture penalty.
Yeah, I heard the story that basically they granted him permission to go on long-term injured reserve, and that's what he wants to do. But there also is a report that came out that he is very unlikely to ever play again, which is extremely sad. I mean, if he has to hang it up because of this, you know, it's bittersweet. Like, he's had a great career, but at the same time, too, you probably know that he had a few years left in the tank. I mean, he just went... It's so frustrating to watch, especially as such a good player, you know, former Pred ties. It's just, man, it's heartbreaking because he is a tough dude, and you know he's got to be really hurting to not be playing hockey.
Yeah, I think he had a couple more years in him, and it is bittersweet for everybody involved, especially The Canadians have had Carey Price has been hurt.
Dude.
They've had a ton of injuries. I can't think of all of them off the top of my head because I've got a horrible memory. But I know that they've been massively struggling to start, and that's going to really they've had a massive damper to start the season, coming off of what was very high expectations given last year's performance. So not a great look to start, and that's going to be really hard to bounce back with. Especially, it's not just a bad couple of games. You've had injuries, and that's going to last more than a few games.
Yeah. 0-4 to start, and then on top of that, you have all those injuries, and they're facing Carolina tonight, so more than likely an L. Let's just be honest. I mean, if they can pull it out, good for them, but I mean, realistically, they're starting off really bad this year. Now, it's one of those, how deep of a hole do they get themselves in? Like, Carey Price is just gone right now, and hopefully he's getting what he needs through this program. Like, we really don't know all the details, but we know like it has to do with something, probably mental health. So that said, Canadians are in a tough spot, and they just fell from glory. I mean, they had let's be honest, they squeak in, and it's a pretty crazy cup run.
Yeah.
So you could argue that they weren't far from this anyways, but like one or two major tipping points, and now you're seeing them at the bottom. And
that's a good point.
They're getting booed off the ice. I think that's a little unnecessary. Like, I'm sorry, like you got some major injuries, like as Matt pointed out. Like, it's
Well, to be fair, Chicago also got booed off the ice the other night too.
Bro, but I'm telling you.
Well, they splurged for Seth Jones and Fleury.
Yeah, they had one of the best off seasons out of any of the teams, and they come out and lay a huge egg to start, and the fans are not happy about it. It's understandable.
Well, here's the deal: their defense in front of Fleury still sucks, and Seth Jones was overpaid.
Yeah,
that's what it boils down to, and I think Chicago was in a really good rebuild mode, and I feel like this kind of detoured them a little bit. Because remember, like the last 2 years, they've been infusing it with young talent. You have Alex Brinkett, coming up, going to be a star, it seems like, for the next several years. You're building on these key blocks, and then all of a sudden it's like you get these this albatross contract with Seth Jones, and then arguably, just looking at the stats, he should have been paid way less than that. Now, you do go over and get Fleury, which I'm very excited about because, Vegas just basically messed him over. But that said, I don't know what Chicago's going to be doing right now.
I won't go so far as to call his contract an albatross. In fact, you'll see over their offseason there was a lot of defensemen that got signed to big money. I think it started with Seth Jones, then Eckham, Charlie McAvoy, some other guy from the Rangers whose name escapes me, Ryan Pollock. This was massive. So the Seth Jones deal really struck how high the figures are going to. So you have comparables, and that's what players base their salaries on. Once Seth Jones deal got done, it was like everybody got paid. Charlie McAvoy got paid the largest contract in Bruins history right after that. So the albatross thing will remain to be seen at the end of the term. Right now, it's fine. I think he deserved the money. He's one of the best defensemen in the league. He's still young, and that'll work well for 3 or 4 years. But after that, sure, maybe we'll start talking about overpaid and all that. But right now, it's fine. But the main concern was the lack of defense and their woes there. Part of it was bringing in a stud like Jones. Part of it was bringing in a better goaltender like Fleury. But at the end, I don't know if it's going to be enough because they have some woes for sure. And as you can see by the start of the season, they might have the pieces, what it takes, but they haven't put it all together quite yet.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like he signed through the 2028 season at like $9.5 million. So, I mean, towards the end of that, it's kind of like you were saying, towards the end of that contract, he also has a no movement, no trade clause. So that's huge. Like, towards the end, I'm not going to argue for the first couple of years because he's still 27, but like once you're getting past that age 30, and you're like 34, 35, you're going to be wanting to dump him. Like, and hopefully his production continues to stay where it's at. I mean, but honestly, like given his production and all the advanced metrics, he probably shouldn't have commanded, that 9.5. I feel like he should have been in the 8.5 range.
I'll draw an interesting comparison. I know Johansson's a forward, but Johansson, when he came into Nashville and got that big 8x8 deal or whatever, I felt like he was overpaid because he's slightly past his prime, maybe. I mean, coming into his prime years, but maybe past it. But the why I call it the past is because you're paying for past performance.
Yeah.
What he did with his previous team is he landed the big bucks for it. But now you're switching to a new system, a new roster. It's totally different. And teams always get in trouble when that happens. I think it's going to be very similar with Seth Jones. It might not hurt right now. Contracts don't burn you until the back end. But same situation with Seth Jones. Come off a great team, had great numbers, and he's moving into a new situation. And then his performance might not reflect the high expectation that you place on him with that salary.
And I will say, Matt, before we forget, how do you like having NHL on ESPN now?
I feel like you're just teeing me up because
Yeah.
I've been on a bit of a rant about it lately. I have felt, so in the offseason, the contract rights from NBC switched over to ESPN and TNT, and I have felt that the transition has not been great. There was a massive amount of technical, well, I don't know what massive is, but there was quite a few technical issues.
They're ironing out the bugs.
As a spectator, I would think as TNT and ESPN both are like professional broadcasting companies, that they would have the ship, ride and everything be smooth, but it's not quite been smooth. There's been some tech issues, some microphones being turned off, some microphone not being linked to the audio correctly synced, and things like that. But yeah, I guess it'll get fixed over time. But honestly, the first game for ESPN, you had my boy Kevin Weeks. I haven't got to see him in a long time because he's NHL, and I don't have NHL Network, so I never get to see his great commentary. And he's a great personality. So now I get to see him on ESPN. But what I was very, very happy with is the TNT having Wayne Gretzky on television. Now, this is so good for hockey. How many times do you have the best to ever play the game leave the game and come back as a commentator? So I was too young to see Gretzky play. So same thing with like Gordie Howe. All these great players weren't in my lifetime really as old enough to watch. So now I'm getting to like relive some of the great hockey eras of bygone past. I'm getting to see Wayne Gretzky still and have memories and see him on TV, which I didn't get to see as a kid. So that is awesome. And then you put him with Charles Barkley, who's apparently another beloved personality, and he's taking slap shots or taking
taking shots
in
Tech Arena's
in Tech Arena's gear,
which he sent him a note. I mean, it was great.
Yeah, that right there, when I saw that, I was like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to hockey. And this was day freaking one that TNT did this. So I was extremely happy with that. Gretzky, you're getting to see the guy. You're getting to see now also Paul Bissonnette. I know you guys don't follow Spittin' Chicklets as much as I do. Biz is a big personality. He's great for hockey. Now he is getting to be on the panel with Gretzky. And after the first game, they bantered so well back and forth that they put Biz on the opposite side of Gretzky. So now that they could banter back and forth and kind of talk towards the other panelists, that way they just kind of it brings everybody back in. And seeing Gretzky's demeanor, his professionalism, and his knowledge, depth of knowledge in hockey, and then you combine that with Paul Bissonnette's boisterous and loud personality. He's kind of a goofball. That's something that that hockey has needed for so long. It's been very boring player interviews, in years gone by. It's almost like you put the snooze on until the game starts or in the intermission. Now you've got colored commentators who are cracking jokes and bantering and ribbing each other. I mean, making a laugh. I was more excited to watch the intermission report than I was to watch the game. And how many years has that been available to be said? That's never been said before. So this is a very good look for hockey in general, for growing the game, wider audiences. This is the best thing ever for hockey in my life.
Yeah, I think that's the big point is, ESPN and TNT, you're partnering with a much larger network at this point. Like, they're going to have some technical issues, and they will get them ironed out, but it is going to enhance the whole game of hockey. Like, you're going to grow the fan base. Like, it's just more readily available, if that makes sense. Like, I mean, if you put on ESPN now, I actually get the point on flipping ESPN with Bucci Main and Barry Melrose and Tort. Are you kidding me? What a lineup that was. Bucci Main, Barry Melrose, and Tort sitting there you talk about some good commentating. That is incredible. And from Tortorella's press conferences, like, that's must-watch TV every single time. So, like, you're bringing in great people, and you've surrounded yourself with a great cast to be able to put it out there. Once they iron out the technical difficulties, I think it's going to be fantastic, and I think it's going to be huge for the game of hockey.
And another piece of massive hockey history that happened the same night, Ovechkin passed Marcel Dion on the all-time goal list, and Gretzky got to talk on the headphone with Ovechkin post-game.
I know.
Two of the best to ever play the game are talking after the game. It cannot get better than this. Freaking day one. It's just very exciting.
That whole night was great because one of the rookies, it was his first game.
Oh,
He was
yeah.
like 19.
Oh, yeah.
He's 19. Okay, we'll just sidebar for a second. He's 19. There's pictures of him in his room with Ovi's poster on the wall as his idol, and he flippin' scores a goal on the same night with his idol on the same bench when he passes. I was just like, and they're literally right beside each other on the bench, and I'm like, you can't draw that up. Like,
Yeah, it
like
just not get better than that.
Like the kid was smiling ear to ear. I mean, like what a great night. Yeah,
I gotta say, boys, I know we love playoffs and the finals. It is not going to get better than that.
yeah.
We peaked, boys.
we peaked. Yeah, I mean, a little sidebar. We always have been gushing over Ovi, but I mean, this man is just.
He's a beast.
He's on a mission to beat Gretzky. I mean, you can clearly see it.
And he's doing commercials.
He's doing commercials with pasta and like life insurance. He's a man of multi-talent, and it's just been incredible seeing him progress. I mean, like honestly, we're at the point where I feel like he is definitely in range to be able to get and catch Gretzky, which I never thought would even be possible. Like I mean. You're talking by the end of this year, he's probably top 3. And then at that point, he's chasing down 2 people. I mean, you're Gordie Howe and flipping Wayne Gretzky. If you're in that group, I don't know what to say anymore. So,
Well, I feel like I need to bring you guys back down to earth a little bit. Because otherwise, like they said, we can talk about this all night long. But guys, the Preds got a Stadium Series game coming February. Are you excited for it?
Oh yeah, we're excited for it. We're gonna try to be there. We're gonna try to get a block of seats. We got to get it here pretty soon to be there for this historic moment. I mean, honestly, they had the press conference. I think it was yesterday on the field, so they actually outlined where the rink's going to be, everything. They're anticipating basically 70,000 people. So
that's awesome.
Imagine 70,000. Like, okay, well, let's really put this in perspective. Like, Bridgestone only holds so much. Like 19,000. So you're talking 70,000. I mean, maybe 10,000 will be Bolts fans, whatever. That's going to be a ruckus environment. And what Sean Henry said, he's like, this is going to be a Smashville spectacular week. I mean, they're turning it into like a whole fanfare thing where the whole week leading up, it's going to be like a massive party to celebrate this series. And a lot of the Lightning players are super excited too. I know, I think it was it Hedman or Point? He was basically saying that his town only has 37,000 people in it from Sweden. And he's going to be playing in a stadium that's going to hold 70,000 fans. I mean, that's absolutely incredible when you think about it. And it's going to be hosted in Nashville, of all places. I mean, it's just crazy. So
yeah, we got to go there. That's like a once in a lifetime. It'll probably never happen in Nashville again for another 40 years. So we got to go to that.
Yeah, no, we'll be there. I think the league's excited, obviously, with the success that we've had with previous, dealings with them, All-Star games, the Cup final. They know we can put on a good show. And honestly, I feel like this is more of a test run for a Winter Classic. If we're able to pull this off, then basically the biggest portion of being able to play the Winter Classic is the problem with scheduling, because the Titans usually are playing a home game around that same time, and there's also the Music City Bowl to deal with for the college game. So it would take probably a year or two in advance of the NHL working with the NFL to try to work the schedule out. But I could see that maybe 4 or 5 years from now being a reality if we do really well for this, because I know they definitely want to do it here because of the fanfare around it. You know what I mean? It would be very special to have one here. But I could see it, like I said, in maybe 5 or 6 years. A lot of coordination that's going to have to happen to make that a reality, though. But we are definitely going to be there. This is going to be a fun game for sure.
I'll tell you, another person who's also going to be there is Matthias Eckham. Like we said at the beginning of the show, he just signed his contract, and it looks like he wants to stay in Smashville for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, so this contract, I'm actually very excited about this contract because it wasn't very long term.
But the question is Matt excited?
No, he was.
Yeah, I agree. 4 years at a, what is it, 6.25?
Yeah, that's a great.
4 years is the ideal term. That's perfect. That's absolutely great. I would never, great.
Yeah, like you could argue 3 because he is a little bit older, but here's the deal. He has been very loyal. He's been here his entire career. So you do have to honor that at some point, give him the extra year. But at the same time, too, it's not like the Seth Jones thing where you're getting into like 8 years. And then on top of it, too, you're still at $6.25 million, and he's one of the, like, a top tier. I think the NHL Network had him ranked at, like, 19th best player in the league. Like, crazy. Like, because the last several years, he's really stepped it up and just shown that he is a great defenseman.
And I think as an organization, even if you could say, well, that term is 1 year too many, or maybe it's $1 million too high, I'm very okay with teams honoring their loyal players. I always actually relish that the Wings used to always do this to their players. Yeah, they'd overpay them a little bit, but if you play your entire career with one team, they ought to show you some freaking respect, okay? And that's what it is. Especially Nashville's not been getting the best press with the fan base for the roster moves they've made. So at least they're locking down another fan favorite a little bit more long term, which is going to sit very well with the fans.
Well, I do want to say real quick, R.I.P. Henrik Lundqvist. Just made me think about that, where he, spends all the time with the Rangers, gets into the Capitals.
Doesn't even play a freaking game with the Capitals and has to retire as a Capital. That pisses me off bad. That chaps me off. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate. But what I was going to say about the Ekholm thing is, Ekholm, not to throw aside loyalty, he's also been productively really good for the organization. He has basically every single year gotten better, and he's been solid and had good numbers to back it up.
Yeah,
that's the great part, and we still got him at a reasonable cost.
I think for the team, he's what Forsberg was 2 or 3 or 4 years ago.
Well, and then also, I'm going to argue this: to have a shot at re-signing Forsberg, you have to sign Ekholm.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like, you have to sign Ekholm, because you already had the RV incident where we've had an Instagram post of thumbs down, and then I think it was me that day that tweeted a picture of Forsberg's Instagram, and sure enough, he's got 3 smiley faces, super excited about the actual contract signing. So you're walking a fine line, because you're like, okay, I have to do something to be able to pitch it to Forsberg later on this year. Hey, we're still keeping some. We want to be competitive, basically. So we're putting our best foot forward right now with some key pieces that you've been around here a long time, and that's a friend of yours. You know what I mean? Like, you got to have him to be able to have Forsberg.
The question, though, becomes, even though Ekholm's been signed, and say the Preds have a terrible season, because right now they're playing tonight. They're coming into this fourth game 1-2. If the team is not doing very well by the trade deadline, do you think Forsberg just says, you know what, I'll take my chances, either trade me or I'll finish the season off and go on the open market?
I could definitely see that as a possibility. After the Arvidsson thing, I thought, man, and with the other moves they made, I definitely could see Forsberg is like on, how do they say, on eggshells, is on a small floor. This could go south really fast. So I think maybe the Ekholm move was exactly for the express purpose of trying to entice Forsberg to stay, if he's a bit of a flight risk at the moment.
And I think I even talked in our group message that we're going to really know where we're at about halfway through the season, because at that point in time, we're going to be able to evaluate our record. We're going to see how far out we are from a playoff position, or if we're in a playoff position, or if we're at the very bottom. And then you have to sit there and consciously make a good decision, because if you know that Forsberg is not going to re-sign at the end of the year because your team's, in the dump, and we're kind of in rebuild mode, and we're, definitely passing on to the youth movement.
Are we?
Hold on. I know we're getting there, because believe me, that's going to be another hot topic for us to rain on for another 10 minutes. But you're trying to move on, trying to get the youth movement in there. But if you are not competitive rebuild mode, like Foyle said, which I think he even said too, he's like, I wish I could take that back or something. Like,
he wanted to change it to
competitive transition. Okay, cool. Either one, if you're in that phase and Forsberg's going to leave, why not deal him at the trade deadline and just rake in the draft picks. Because this next draft is loaded. So somebody out there is going to want Forsberg, obviously. We want him. We obviously don't want him to leave, but at the same time, too, if you know there's a pretty good chance of him leaving at the end of the year and you're getting nothing, I'm dealing him at the trade deadline, and I'm taking all those draft picks and I'm cashing in, and I'm getting multiple, like, the best bang for my buck that I possibly can at that time, because I'm getting some first-round picks for that next draft. There's a ton of teams out there who have a ton of picks, too, like, that would be willing to give up that. I mean, heck, even the Red Wings. Look at how many they've stockpiled. Like you have teams out there that have a lot. So all I'm saying is you're going to have to walk this fine line, and about halfway through the season, you're going to know whether or not what you need to do with Forsberg. So it's going to be very touch and go this year.
There's a bit of instability in that subject, and I think Kyle was alluding to another bit of misdirection in where are we headed with another situation, Kyle.
So, we were talking earlier about the youth movement. Daniel said, hold on, we're going to get to it. So now here we are. The Preds, like you said, David Boyle was all about, the competitive rebuild and finger quotes. And it seemed like through training camp and, the preseason games, it looked like that was going to be the case. Phil Tomasino, Cody Glass, both make opening night rosters. And we're like, okay, Preds come in being one of the youngest teams. I think they were like either the fourth or fifth youngest team starting off the night.
Fifth youngest.
And basically 2 games in, they're like, well, I should say Hines is like, no, I want Tomasino to go down, and I want Cody Glass to go down. And you put in Rocco, and I believe it was, who's the other guy that came in?
Novak.
Yeah, Novak.
Well, Tommy Novak was the one that got called up from. And here's the deal, like Rocco, he looks good, and he had really good numbers, towards the end of last season. And him being out was kind of like, almost like a head scratcher to me. You know what I mean? That's frustrating because we acquire Glass in that trade, and then we also have Tomasino, who is arguably like one of the future cornerstones for us. But my whole point is, why give them that 1 or 2 game hope and then just immediately send them back down?
Yeah, and
I don't get that.
To the point that I know Cody Glass did nothing special, but here's the thing. I don't care about AHL players, if I'm honest. I don't care about Tomasino. Talk to me once you can be a stable NHL player, because there's so many. There are a dime a dozen, and I can't remember 1,000 players. So once you make NHL roster, okay, now we'll talk. But let me tell you about Cody Glass. I've known about Cody Glass for two years. I knew about him when he played for Vegas. I know he only played like 30 games a year, but I knew his name. And now you're taking a guy who's he's like a black ace type character who I've known from other teams, and you're sending him back down to the minors. I don't understand it. You're putting in another guy whose name I've never heard, and I'm in your local market. I don't get that.
Novak had a good camp, but I don't understand sending Glass back down. And also, correction too, Tomasino was not sent back to Milwaukee. He was only scratched. He's also playing tonight. I just want to point that out.
Okay, fair enough. I got it wrong.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to point that out. There was a difference, but still, it's one of those things. It's like, why you traded for Glass? Kind of like you were saying, Matt. Like, you've been following Vegas. He is definitely. I think Glass was a first-round pick. Am I making that up? Somebody check me.
I don't know about first round, but he's not a AHL player. I'm gonna put it that way.
Kyle's fact checking me on this one. I feel like he's first or second round. I thought he was hot.
He was a hot ticket in Vegas.
I feel like he was late first round. Okay, but besides that, you traded him in the whole transaction for Ellis. You know what I mean? To get something back. So it's kind of like
Drafted 6.
Draft 6 overall.
6 overall.
Yep, and
I told you.
The 2017 NHL draft, and he was the Vegas Knights first pick they made in their draft.
Baby.
Yeah, so
I told you.
He was a big deal.
So not even.
He was a first pick for them, and yet he's not even good enough for our NHL team. Are you freaking kidding me, bro?
But he's also had a ton of injuries too.
I don't care. He's not injured right now.
No, but that's my point. Is like with Vegas, he was injured a lot, so you didn't see his potential.
Yeah.
Like I've seen him play, and it's kind of, I don't know. There's a lot of offensive upside to Cody Glass. So I don't see that with Tommy Novak as much, even though he had a good camp. I'm not downing him. Okay. The good news is you've also had other people. Igor Afanasyev, if I pronounced that correct. Who knows? Afanasyev.
Well, I tell you what, though.
He did great, too.
One good note, though, is my boy, T-Time Tolvanen, scored the first goal for the Preds this year.
Okay, let me tell you, he's been shooting a lot this year. He's had the most shots on every single game. Like, I think it was through the first period, he had 6 shots on goal, and I'm like, do it.
I think he has top 3 shots in the league right now.
Yes, and I don't care because guess what? No one else is doing anything else.
No, go for it, bro. It's almost like the coach is utilizing him the way he should be utilized, the way he was in the KHL.
Yeah,
great start for him. I tell you what, it's been looking.
Well, that's what I want. That's what we wanted, is for the youth to take over. That's why I'm like, I don't understand why Tomasino got scratched. That's like, I don't fully get this. Now I will say this: moving Duchesne to the wing, Duchesne looks way more dangerous right now. Like
Duchesne had
he's looked incredible because. Granted, I'm just going to say this: the start has not been good for the Predators, but at the same time, too, their expected goals. Okay, they're 6th in the league for expected goals. That's kind of crazy to me.
I don't even understand that.
Yes, so they're at 57.41% for expected goals, according to MoneyPuck.com, through 3 games.
Give it another week, and that drops down to 20
that's strange considering that most of the analysts and even a lot of people that are fans of a team like ourselves aren't really buying into the hype this season.
No,
We're expecting the team
but the
to
funny
not do
part
well.
is, though, it's only a few people on the roster. So if you start nitpicking and pulling out certain stats, guess who's standing out? Duchesne. Do you know who the other person is that's standing out for expected goals? This is going to be a surprise.
Is it Johansson?
No.
I'm gonna
This is a total surprise.
If it's the name I'm thinking of, it's the guy I'm about to say next. So let's
Alexander Carrier.
No, I'm not doing that.
So, and you can wager this. So get this: this is under 25-year-olds. Okay, so U25. Alexander Carrier has the best expected goal. He's the best in the league under 25 right now at 74.4.
Get out of here.
That is way early to
stats?
start doing that.
I tell you what, that Money Puck stat, I saw that. That was after only game 3, though. I mean,
this is a different source. Let's just take the Kings game alone. Do you know his 5-on-5 expected goal share was? 75.9. For the Kings game. That's the crazy part. Now you have to here's the caveat. These are small sample sizes.
Extremely small.
But you have to say that this is a good sign, especially after dealing Ellis.
Sure.
You've dealt Ellis, okay? Like, you're going to get over it. He scored the first goal of in his Flyers uniform the other night, wearing a weird number, and it really threw me off.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, it was really just.
It kind of hurt a little bit.
I was sitting there and I'm like, man, I don't recognize the number. I just recognize the beard, and he scores anyway. So that said, it hurts a little bit, but at the same time, too, you have to be excited that this is what you wanted. You wanted the youth. Like, you wanted Tolvanen to start shooting more. You wanted Carrier to step up and take the transition. And he has. He's actually been better than Fabro here recently.
I'll also say a name. I was watching the other night, and I was like, oh, man, this kid, who's this guy? Let me get the name off the back of the jersey. And the kid I kept seeing who actually looked like a decent NHL player was Tanner Janot. The other night.
But we've been on his train since last year when he joined the herd line towards the end.
You guys were, but I'm just now getting on it. But I'll say, now I'm starting to take notice.
He's hammering people.
So that is it's a good sign when people who weren't on your train are starting to take notice.
It only took you a full season to notice it.
Well, it takes me a while with these, AHL Black Ace players. You got to prove it to me. You got to show me, baby.
So here's the thing. What about Fabro? Do you think he ends up, staying on the third line, the third pair, or does he go back to Milwaukee?
No, he needs to stay, and they need to kick Ben Harper off into the nearest flipping black hole because he is a traffic cone. He is my new Alexei Emelin. I'm sorry.
A couple seasons back.
I am already back on Alexei Emelin, okay? Like, this dude is a traffic cone. He was literally, I think it was like, he was second worst in the league at like -2 point something. It was some random stat I saw, and I'm like, yep, that doesn't surprise me. Like, he's a traffic cone. I've been saying that for a year and a half now, but somehow he's Hines' boy. Like, I don't understand.
I think we're back to the woes of the third pair again. Third pair woes again this year for the Preds. I think it's going to be the big Achilles heel for this team, and also lack of depth. Somebody commented and said, I think the Preds are one injury away from being a a lottery draft team, and that kind of resonated with me. That stings. It's a slight hot take, but I really can see it. You let one of the big three go down, and this team is hurting.
Harper's not in the lineup tonight, thank God. Burrow cops in. I'd much rather have Burrow than Harper. I mean, he's just. It's been terrible. It's absolutely been terrible watching him. Like, sorry, but he needs to go back to the AHL or just get rid of him.
Well, since you're talking about them getting rid of him, what do you think about Joey and Duchesne?
I tell you what, I saw a stat today that said they take up almost 33% of the entire Nashville's cap space.
Yeah. Well, both of them have $8 million plus contracts. I mean, that just is what it is right now for them. Like,
which is a massive overpayment. Two guys cannot take up a third
They're
of the
both
cap.
$8. They're both $8 million.
Yeah,
so it's
72 million.
Yeah, because it's $16 million a year between the two players. And that said, looking at the production and looking at the players so far this year, I will argue Johansson has looked a lot better since basically Duchesne has moved to the wing. I think that line, honestly, it's been one of the top lines in the league actually right now as far as expected goals. Up there with the Kraken, which is hilarious to me because everyone got on the Tanev train because Matt was frustrated. Because all of a sudden, like, everyone's like, oh, Tanev can play. It's like crazy.
Well, to be fair, also, I was expecting, was it Matt, we were playing games the other night, and I was like, yeah, it looks like Seattle's going to be, Nashville is going to be the first to win.
Oh, we knew it was coming.
Yeah,
I mean, it just
Nashville has a historic past of letting rookies get their first goal against them and new teams get their first win against them,
Yeah, it is what it is, but that said, that line has looked great. Like, it has looked more like a top line because every time you've put him out on the ice, Duchesne has looked like he's been generating stuff. Forsberg, Lish, and Johansson actually had a good goal the other night. That they're actually producing now, but that's what. Here's the deal: you're making $8 million a year. Both of you need to be producing the entire time. Like, you have to be consistent. And Johansson has not been consistent. I want to see him get consistent.
I do like this quote from The Athletic when I believe it was either Adam or Joe that was talking about Joey and Duchesne. And they said these two are going to be here a while. They're going to be talented veterans who rediscover their game and help this team climb back to relevance, or the part I like here, or they're going to become symbols of irrelevance.
Yeah, hopefully not, but I think they also went on in this article to make the point that whichever one is going to be, they're going to be in Nashville because their contracts are so big that nobody's going to take them away. So they're going to be here probably for a long time.
I mean, they were so big they didn't have to worry about getting picked in the expansion draft. Their contracts basically protected them.
Yes, and that is a very interesting situation how that went down. But I will say,
hold on, Duchesne was protected. Joey wasn't. So if anyone has to look at that and be like, it's Joey, because Joey was left completely unprotected, and they protected Matt Duchesne. That is important to note because Duchesne actually looks like he has production right now.
Well, let me tell you something about Duchesne. I would like to draw this comparison here, and we'll see how well it rings true going on in the future. But what I noticed, I guess it was the last game, I can't remember, watching Duchesne absolutely scrap him on the wing. And it looked like an Arvidsson. So I wonder with Arvi being gone, if he's being told to slot into Arvidsson's role, being a junkyard hustler along the edges, getting scraps, getting rebounds. And I wonder if he's going to fill more of that role. And I honestly wonder if he'll blossom a little bit better there. I know he's been playing center for a long time, but I'm very curious to see if he excels a little bit more in this role. I don't know if it's just his natural play style, it's just a couple games, or maybe it's just the roster decision that's going to have a little bit better success now.
Could it also be that Joey's using this for motivation? Because like just said, he was left unprotected, so maybe he's using this as I'm going to show the Preds I'm actually capable of playing for this team and earning my money.
I mean, there's going to be some validity in that. I mean, that was my whole point. Is like I think Dealing Arvidsson mixes up the lines. You're going to put your top two. I mean, these are your two $8 million players on your top line right now. So guess what? You need to look like a top flipping line. Like you got to produce. Like that's the thing. This is make or break for Duchesne or Joey because Duchesne's actually looking great. He's got the advanced analytics to back him up, and the eye test too. You can tell, as like Matt was saying, he looks scrappier, he looks hungrier, he looks feisty, he's going to the net. Where Joey now has to prove he can do this, and he can be an assist machine like he needs to be, because he needs to be feeding Forsberg and Duchesne the entire season. And if he is doing that correctly, then you should see Duchesne and Forsberg's numbers be very good. That is my argument.
I will say I found it was a very, I'll call it an aggressive move to put both of them on the same line. I thought that was an aggressive take. That shows that I think it shows where the franchise is wanting to go. They're wanting to put a powerhouse. They're wanting to keep the powerhouses up, keep it kind of like a Joe Line situation where they're just dominant for one line as opposed to spreading it out. I think they're going with the mentality of let's put our best foot forward. We're going to put all our tricks in one bag, and we're going to get some action going there. We're going to get some points. We're going to fire up the roster, and we're going to let that work its way down. But you have to ignite somewhere, and I think they're putting all their money on doing it on line number one.
Now, would Joey or Duchesne be that one player that gets injured that makes us a lottery team?
Yes.
I think Duchesne.
One of them or Yossi. If Yossi goes down.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Who was it, Kyle? Somebody said who was going to be the
or Soros.
Yeah.
You have like three players really.
Yeah.
Like Duchesne or Forsberg, and then you're talking one defenseman.
Yeah, defenseman would be critical. Your guys are already so weak on the back end right now.
Yeah, that would crush. And then it's got to be Soros. So you have like three positions that you don't want an injury on. I'll put it like that. I would call it a very fragile team at the moment. But that being said, got a lot of young talent. You come out and exceed expectations. So not a whole lot of expectations this year. So this might be a chance to step up here.
Well, and here's the deal. Here's another. So now I'm back on Money Puck for defensive pairings because I was just curious to see like some of the top defensive pairings in the leagues. And ironically enough, the Preds own the 6th, 7th, and the 8th best defensive pairing. And you're not going to believe this. The 6th and 7th one is Ekholm Carrier, and then the 7th one is Yossi Carrier. So this is very interesting. Carrier has done well on both pairings. So when he's either paired with Ekholm or Yossi, he has exceeded.
Yeah, I like to see that.
And that goes to back up my other stats that I had pulled, even from a different source where he's like under 25 years old. He's the best expected goal person.
Fine.
So now this is two different sources.
Fine.
But
Whatever.
but what I'm trying to say is it is a good sign that he is stepping up.
I'm glad you told me that. That makes me more confident in him for sure.
So, and he's been paired with both our top defensemen, and both of them are literally 6th and 7th respectively as far as defensive pairs. So that is good to have a Swiss Army knife. We got rid of one. We got rid of Callie. We haven't seen him yet, of course, because he's been in COVID protocol for
he just got out.
I know, for like 4 or 5 games. So that said, it's one of those, it is a nice sign to see, but are they willing to commit to the youth movement? Are you willing to bring Glass back? Are you willing to keep Tomasino in? And I've said this from the beginning. What was my last statement in the very last podcast that we had? I feel like a broken record. And I said, next year, if we do not make the playoffs, I do not care if you are growing the team. Like if you are growing like the youth movement, just do it.
I feel like part of the problem is that GMDP is afraid to actually pull the trigger. I feel like, like right now, the Rangers are beating the Preds 1-0. If the Rangers win tonight, that's going to be we'll go 1-3. Like, how far is it going to get before we realize this team is just mediocre?
Well, it's hard to pull the trigger on making a bold move when it's not a clear answer. You are kind of in that no man's land right now, and that makes making a big move very difficult.
It's a competitive transition.
Right.
That's what I'm being told.
Okay, Matt, you're the GM of the Preds.
Oh, this is good.
You've got this situation where your team is mediocre. They've done terrible, like the Preds are doing right now, and you got the option to either hang on to your older age and talent that you know what you have and what to expect, or do you want to go with the young guns who could propel you forward?
Well, first of all, what I'm doing is I'm not making any drastic moves right now. We're not even the first 5 games into the year. Yeah. I'm going to wait to see a bigger sample size, and then I agree with that sentiment of transition. I like that term for the situation the Preds are in. It needs to be a transition to a slight rebuild. You don't have to kill all the old roster, but it needs to be a transition younger, and it is going to be a rebuild, restructuring period. There's gray matter in there, so nothing drastic. It just needs to, honestly, it's going to be an uncomfortable 3 or 4 years or whatever. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, it is an awkward time. I mean, you got to think about this. You dealt Ellis and Arvidsson in the offseason, and Peck retired. I mean, is what it is.
Arvidsson was not happy to be traded, though.
No, he wasn't.
Well, I tell you what, let's switch the topic slightly. Got a little happier note, and that was the Kraken coming to Nashville. What did you guys think about that?
I like their away uniforms more than I like their home uniforms, personally. Play-wise,
It was a meh game.
it was okay.
It was a meh game.
Probably the most exciting part was the audience fan fight in the crowd with their Kraken fan in the crowd. Did you guys see that?
And I did laugh at this. Have you seen the second view where there's a guy in the hat?
View,
There's like another guy in the hat who like tries to do like one or two punches and he completely whiffs. Like, but and then he's like completely out. Like he tried to take one or two cheap shots and then he completely just whiffed. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. That game was pretty boring. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
I'm getting tired. I'm getting tired of hearing Brandon Tanev's name. I mean, he's okay. He's not that great. Calm down.
Crazy-eyed Tanev.
Yeah. That famous photo of his.
I like Geeky. He's been really good for them. Yeah. I mean, honestly, they've looked great. That top line was, one of the higher ranked ones for that first week. I think they've calmed down a little bit.
Good stats and metrics, at least the first couple games.
They've cooled off some.
I'm curious to see how long that continues because remember, they're going to forever be paired with Vegas, who also, they had their first game against Vegas, which I thought was very fitting. But they're going to forever be compared success-wise to how they match up, how they stand up against what Vegas did their first year. So we'll see that going forward. I mean, nobody knows yet.
Now, I did like how Vegas on their opening ice, they had the Knight slay the Kraken.
Yeah,
yes,
that was
cool. That was awesome.
Great,
I tell you what, Vegas puts such a performance out. I watch it all the time. I get into the chants when they sing, the national anthem, and everybody yells "Knight," and I love the show. There's such a high energy in that arena. I'm all the time. I love my late night hockey, so I love watching Vegas. And I always tell my wife, I'm like, man, we really have to go there. That just looks like a freaking blast.
I would love to go to a Preds game there. Preds versus Knights. And
my brother was out there with his wife to one of the games, and he said it was amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's only like the first, second hockey game he's been to, and he was just like, this is awesome.
It's a really good arena too, because that's one of your more modern arenas too. Like you're gonna have all the technology. You like
it appeals to a younger crowd and people that are normal, like go to concerts. They have light shows and music. They're things that aren't necessarily just hockey. I mean, they got food, they got beer. I mean, whatever you like, it's there. It's like an event, man. You don't even have to love hockey. You can just go there and hang out. I mean, it's a good time.
Now, before we wrap up on everything too, like I have to just take a moment, like. This year has been really weird to start. Like the league is really flip-flopped right now. I don't know if you guys have noticed the standings. It's quite comical. The Preds were 4th in the division, but they're 24th in the league, just to let you know how bad the Central Division is. And by the way, the Predators are ahead of Colorado and Vegas to start.
And that's odd
blows my
that
mind.
You said that how bad the Central is. The Central is supposed to be the powerhouse this year.
No. They look terrible.
That's just what everybody's saying. So,
it's a weird season when Detroit is 9th place overall in the league.
Detroit hasn't lost in regulation.
And Buffalo is undefeated. And
God bless.
But here's the deal. Buffalo's undefeated. Detroit's 9th. The Canadians, who are in the Stanley Cup, are literally dead last and have not won a game. And then you have Vegas.
That's brutal.
And Colorado below the Predators right now. What? Like what is going on this year? I can't make this up. I mean, first of all, here's the deal. Small sample size. It is going to average out. I'm not.
Daniel loves the small sample size stats today.
Look, these guys right here, Colorado and Vegas, are not going to be down here for very long.
The Islanders, bro.
That's crazy. I didn't even notice that. Yeah, that they shouldn't be there either. So
we'll say though, Arizona, welcome to the Central.
Well, yeah, get wrecked.
Arizona's going to get wrecked this year in the Central.
They're going to be so bad.
That's not going to be a good fit. It's going to be the bottom feeders there.
Yeah, just get ready, Arizona. That said, though, it has been a really weird start. Like, oddly strange. Like, Ottawa's 15th, New Jersey 14th. I mean, come on, get out of here. Like, I just don't see this holding up for the whole season, but it has been a weird start. And fortunately, the Central has been kind of so the Preds are still 4th.
Yeah.
But, if you'd have told me we lost the, 2 out of the first 3 games and Colorado and Vegas was going to be behind the Preds, no. And Buffalo is up there undefeated.
And Florida's undefeated.
Florida's good though. I tell you what, man, they look good this year. They're going to be a sneaky good team. But yeah, I don't know. The league is kind of topsy-turvy right now, but give it to our next podcast, and I guarantee you stuff will start to hopefully average out and return to normal.
So, Matt, for the first time this season, I can ask you, do you have any stats that we've not talked about?
Yeah, it is a little bit young yet. Not too much stats going on besides Ovi passing Marcel Dion, but I will leave you with one we haven't mentioned yet, and that is that Calgary lost their home opener now for 12 years in a row. And that's the second longest streak in NHL or in a North American sports history. 12 years losing home opener in a row. So not a good start for Calgary. They're all mad that they lost Mark Giordano. So it can only go up from here, boys. So.
And Daniel, what games we got coming up?
Yeah, just actually, I was just going around looking at the league right now. So the Preds are still losing right now, 1-0. Rangers are on the power play, and it is the end of the first. The Hurricanes are beating the Canadians, by the way, 2-1. So it looking like a 5-0 or 0-5 start for them. Ooh, that's gonna be rough. And the Avs are losing to the Panthers right now, so maybe another L4. Can you imagine? Like they're gonna be 1-3 to start.
I've missed hockey so bad.
Like,
this is great. This is good news, baby.
Blows my mind where we're at right now. I don't know. Late night hockey though tonight is the Oilers and the Coyotes. So. Get wrecked.
Two of Matt's favorite teams.
It's basically just going to be McDavid scoring on the all AHL.
McDavid's had a very hot start again. It's
Shocker.
shocking how good
it was.
It is.
Draisaitl
Always the two.
Who's leading in points right now?
It's McDavid and Draisaitl are in 1 and 2.
Let's see.
But Matt, Arizona has one thing going for them. They brought their Kachina jerseys back.
They did. Yes. Everybody wanted it. They teased it a lot last year. They were using it as their alternate, and it's good to see them go back and do it full time because all the fans wanted it. So at least you can wear your fun jerseys to the arena, even if they're not winning so much. But hey, that's good news for Arizona.
That gives me hope that Preds will bring back the blue jerseys again.
I wish they would get rid of some of the gold. It's a little overwhelming.
Well, here's the deal, and we didn't really talk about this too much. Just to circle back, the Stadium Series, we get unique jerseys. So you're going to get a one-off jersey for that event. I mean, obviously they haven't teased anything yet, but I'm very excited to see what they.
Yeah,
it's going to be gold.
Well, it's going to be gold because the whole theme is going to be like painting the stadium gold. I understand that, but the Stadium Series, if you take a look at like all the jerseys, I was actually going back and looking at some of them. Like the Kings one, the Wings had a really cool like a Detroit one that was very modern. It's always a very edgy, modern, simplistic jersey, which I like. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they do that for both teams because the Lightning jersey will be away. So a lot of white, a little bit of blue. It's going to almost be like Titans colors, ironically enough. That's going to be funny in Titan Stadium. But I'm very excited for that sweater because they knocked the Winter Classic jersey out of the park because it was like, there's not a lot of gold. It had a white. It was that vintage look.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I love it. I bought one. It's in my closet. You know, like, of course, I'm going to buy this one because we'll probably be at the game. Okay. But that said, I'm interested on the take for this. And I know the Predators, I think Yossi and Eckham both mentioned in the press conference, they're excited to see what offering they have for the new sweater. Because I think it's going to be very modern and very cool for Nashville. So maybe they do some sort of like Nashville vibe infused in there. So I guess Adidas will be in charge of that as usual. So we'll see. So as far as games coming up, so tonight we're currently facing the Rangers. And before our next podcast, we'll have Winnipeg, Minnesota, San Jose, and then the New York Islanders. So we'll see where we're at as far as standing wise come that time. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a little bit difficult to stretch because Minnesota and San Jose have got off to a hot start. So the schedule really doesn't get easy for the Preds for a long time. I mean, you're talking 2 division rivals coming up, and then you have San Jose and the Islanders. So we'll see. And a lot of home games to start, which means, guess what? You need to be piling up the points right now, and you're not. So I just want to point that out.
Well, maybe we can beat the Preds B team. That's all I was thinking about. Actually, you were talking about that. I'm going Preds B team, but can we really call them the Preds B team anymore?
Wild, because it's like Hartman, Fiala. I mean, at one point, it's just hilarious how many people. Bonino. Is Bonino up there still? Or Bonino gone? I can't keep track of. He's shaking his head. Yes, I assume Bonino is still there. So it's just hilarious how many acquisitions they acquired from us over the past basically like 3 seasons.
Guys, that wraps up the first episode of Season 5. We hope you've enjoyed it. If you want to listen more to our show, you can find us on iTunes at Music City Gold, or you can find our episodes at Penalty Box Radio. Until then, we'll see you on the ice.
You've been listening to Music City Gold on the Penalty Box Radio Network. We'd love to interact with you on Twitter. The show can be found at Music City Gold. You can find Kyle at Kyle Hancock, Daniel at Steve Dan Drum, and Matt at Matt Bain 31. Past episodes of the show can be found by subscribing to Music City Gold or Penalty Box Radio on iTunes or at penaltyboxradio.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the ice.